Hi everyone! Welcome back to our YouTube channel, Treasure Coins, where we dive deep into the hidden tales of coins, history, and wealth. Today's story will take us on a journey back in time, a journey that intertwines post-war economics, numismatic legends, and a coin so rare that its value now stands at a staggering $573 million. We are talking about the elusive 1954 5-cent coin, a piece that has sparked debate, desire, and a hunt that spans generations. Sit back as we explore how this small coin became one of the most valuable in the world, a symbol of mystery and fortune unlike anything ever minted in American history. It all began in the early months of 1954. The world was still recovering from the aftermath of the Second World War, and America found itself facing a rapidly shifting economy. Industrial power was booming, households were expanding, and coins were moving faster than ever before through the hands of average Americans. Amid this flurry of economic growth, the United States Mint quietly produced the latest batch of Jefferson nickels, seemingly unremarkable coins that bore the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, and Monticello on the reverse. But something happened that year at the Philadelphia Mint, something that would remain undiscovered for decades. Of the millions of nickels produced, a tiny handful, perhaps just a single handful, was struck using a mysterious die, one that bore microscopic anomalies and a previously unseen configuration. This special strike, as it would come to be called, was different. It featured subtle differences in the Monticello design, a slightly raised mint mark position, and a planchette quality that glimmered with an unusual luster. No one noticed at first. These rare 1954 5-cent coins slipped into circulation, indistinguishable to the naked eye. But years later, when collectors began to take a closer look at various nickels from the mid-century era, rumors began to circulate. A few reports emerged from coin shops in the early 1980s of a strange 1954 nickel with unusually sharp details and a unique surface finish. A numismatist named Carl Donovan was the first to catalogue its anomalies, noting that the coin's composition may have involved a silver mix, an impossibility for 5-cent coins post. 1946. The story took a turn in 1987 when an anonymous collector brought a 1954 nickel to auction. The coin, listed simply as high-grade Jefferson nickel, was estimated at $200. But bidding soared beyond expectations, reaching over $7,000 before the gavel fell. The buyer remained anonymous. Speculation was rampant. Whispers of government test strikes, accidental alloy mixtures, or secret mint errors filled numismatic circles. Then, in 1992, the Smithsonian Institution made a quiet acquisition, a 1954 5-cent coin with properties that confounded metallurgists. Analysis showed traces of platinum in the alloy. That revelation rocked the coin community. No record existed of platinum being used in any US coin minting that year. Why would a low-value coin be struck with such an expensive material? The mystery deepened. One theory emerged suggesting the coin was part of a top-secret Cold War economic experiment. During that time, the government explored coin durability under extreme environments, including possible nuclear scenarios. Could the platinum-infused 1954 nickel have been part of a classified durability test? Documents remain sealed, but the theory gained traction, especially among conspiracy-minded collectors and Cold War historians. By the early 2000s, only 3 examples of the mysterious 1954 5-cent coin were known to exist. Each featured the same striking anomalies: perfect die alignment, mirror-like surfaces, and a faint radial line behind Monticello's dome, an engraving never intended to appear on standard nickels. These coins became the holy grail of Jefferson collectors, with private transactions rumored to have crossed $10 million. Then came the turning point in 2013. A wealthy venture capitalist from Silicon Valley, known only as Mr. R, stunned the world by paying $117 million for one of these coins in a private sale brokered through a Swiss bank. The story made headlines across financial networks and numismatic journals alike. It was the most ever paid for any coin in history at the time. But that was just the beginning. the newfound fame of the 1954 5-cent coin brought it to the attention of international museums, secretive collectors in Dubai, and even global royalty. A Saudi prince reportedly offered $200 million for the second known specimen in 2017, though the deal never went through. Meanwhile, black market copies flooded the scene, prompting new grading technologies to emerge. The professional coin grading service had to introduce advanced spectral analysis just to verify authenticity of the originals. More than just a rare coin, the 1954 5-cent piece became a symbol of secret American history. Researchers dug deep into archives, uncovering fragments of mint correspondence from the early 50s. One memo referenced experimental strikes not to be logged and unsanctioned metal testing, phrases that suggested rogue operations within the minting process. Some even connected the coin's unusual composition to surplus materials left over from the Manhattan Project. In 2019, a fourth specimen emerged under astonishing circumstances. A Canadian coin dealer acquired it from the estate of a retired U.S. Navy intelligence officer who had served during the Korean War. The coin had sat, unnoticed, in a naval-issue footlocker for nearly 60 years. Its discovery reignited debate over the coin's origins. Why did an intelligence officer possess such a coin? What was the connection to military operations? And why had it been kept secret for so long? Experts from MIT, the Royal Canadian Mint, and the Bundesbank conducted a collaborative metallurgical study in 2020. Their conclusion? The coin's unique alloy, while partially platinum, also contained trace elements of neptunium and hafnium, both used in experimental reactor cooling systems. Suddenly, the coin was no longer just a numismatic oddity, it was a relic from the dawn of nuclear experimentation. In response, the US government issued a rare statement denying any deliberate minting of coins using classified materials. But former mint employees, now in their 80s and 90s, began giving interviews. One anonymous source admitted that in 1953, a batch of test planches was accidentally shipped from the Los Alamos lab to the Philadelphia Mint. According to the source, a few coins were struck and quietly released to avoid detection. Fast forward to 2024. The last known auction sale of a certified 1954 5-cent coin took place behind closed doors, organized by a consortium of private investors. The final price? A staggering $573 million, making it the most expensive coin sale in recorded history. The buyer, once again anonymous, is rumored to be building a private museum dedicated to Cold War artifacts. The coin is reportedly held in a vault beneath a Swiss estate, guarded by biometric locks and monitored around the clock. Meanwhile, the search for a fifth coin continues. Treasure hunters, coin dealers, and historians scour flea markets, estate sales, and old military trunks in hopes of discovering the final piece. Some believe the coin may have been destroyed, melted down unknowingly, or still rests in an abandoned safety deposit box somewhere in the Midwest. The 1954 5-cent coin, once a forgotten piece of pocket change, now carries with it a legacy of secrecy, power, and untold wealth. It's a reminder that sometimes, the smallest things hold the greatest value, and the greatest stories. Whether it was an accident, a cover-up, or a deliberate act of historical mischief, one thing is certain: the 1954 nickel has earned its place in the pantheon of priceless artifacts. And the story isn't over yet. Every day, new collectors enter the hunt, hoping to stumble upon history in their change jar, their grandparents' attic, or tucked away in an old book. Because when it comes to coins like this, it's not just about metal, it's about mystery, memory, and the millions waiting to be uncovered. Next, the year 1979 marked a series of significant historical events across the globe. From the intensifying Cold War tension to the Iranian Revolution, the world was in a flux of political and economic changes. In the United States, while inflation loomed and a new era of fiscal policies was taking root, something seemingly ordinary was taking place in the background, an event that would not make headlines at the time but would later stun collectors, historians, and economists alike. That year, Among millions of nickels minted, one particular 5-cent coin emerged that would eventually be valued at a staggering $520 million. To understand how such a modest piece of currency came to carry such an astronomical worth, we must delve into a tale that weaves through mystery, minting anomalies, economic forces, criminal intrigue, historical significance, and sheer happenstance. The 1979 5-cent coin, often casually referred to as a Jefferson nickel, was part of a long-running series that started in 1938. Featuring President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his Monticello estate on the reverse, the design remained largely consistent for decades. However, something curious happened during the minting process in 1979 that would set one coin apart. In the midst of routine mint operations at the Philadelphia Mint, a die error occurred that created what numismatists later termed a double obverse strike with transitional alloy composition. To a regular eye, the coin didn't seem all that different, but under close examination, it revealed a striking dual image overlay of Jefferson's bust, with a noticeable shadow effect caused by an offset in the die alignment. Moreover, the coin's alloy did not match the official specifications of nickel and copper, according to records later discovered. The Philadelphia Mint in 1979 was experimenting with different metallic compositions for future coinage in response to increasing material costs. While these test strikes were intended to be destroyed or stored securely, one test piece was somehow mixed in with the general mintage. That single coin slipped through the cracks of inspection and made its way into circulation. For decades, no one knew it existed. It exchanged hands like any ordinary nickel, buying chewing gum, sitting in piggy banks, rolling through vending machines. It was just a 5-cent piece with a slightly unusual sheen, easily dismissed or overlooked. It wasn't until the mid-2000s when a retired metallurgist named Harold Jennings came upon the coin during a routine trip to a flea market in Oregon. Jennings, who had spent decades analyzing industrial metal compositions, had an unusual hobby, checking coins under portable spectrometers. To him, every coin had a story to tell through its metallic fingerprint. When he scanned the 1979 nickel, he was immediately puzzled. The reading didn't match the standard nickel-copper alloy. Instead, it revealed traces of palladium and platinum group metals, elements never used in standard US coinage. His curiosity piqued. He ran the scan again. Same result. Unsettled but intrigued, Jennings kept the coin and began his research. Over the next year, Jennings consulted with numismatic experts, metallurgists, and historical mint records. With every layer peeled back, the coin's mysterious profile deepened. It was indeed minted in Philadelphia, bore all the characteristics of a genuine strike, but the composition was entirely inconsistent with official releases. The double obverse strike further complicated the narrative. A historian with ties to the US Mint eventually uncovered archived notes referencing an experimental batch from late 1978 to early 1979, involving platinum-blended alloys for potential future coinage to test for durability and cost efficiency. But the program had been abandoned, and all test coins were logged as destroyed. The rediscovery of one surviving piece shattered that narrative. When the coin was first appraised by the American Numismatic Society, the estimates started modestly, with initial figures around $250,000 due to its double obverse anomaly. But the real breakthrough came when international bidders and historical collectors began placing value not just on the rarity of the coin but on its historical implications and material worth. As the only known surviving transitional alloy test piece of 1979, the coin became more than a mint error, it became a relic of monetary history. The inclusion of trace precious metals in its composition added intrinsic value, while the historical mystery added symbolic weight. By 2015, the coin had been featured in major exhibitions and was insured for over $100 million. What happened next pushed the coin into infamy. In 2016, during an exclusive private auction in Geneva, the coin was listed under the titled Specimen 1979 P5 cent, experimental composition. The starting bid was $20 million. Within hours, the bid climbed past $100 million. The final hammer came down at an unprecedented $453 million to an undisclosed bidder, believed to be a member of Middle Eastern royalty with an extensive collection of rare global currencies. Factoring in auction fees, transportation security, and insurance, the coin's total transaction cost reached an estimated $520 million, making it the most expensive coin ever sold in history. The sale sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Coin grading institutions scrambled to validate any others like it. Collectors began scouring their 1,979 nickels in hopes of finding another. But none ever surfaced. Every other known nickel from that year matched expected standards. This coin remained a singular anomaly, untouchable in its rarity. Its value wasn't purely material. It encapsulated a lost experiment, a gap in institutional memory, and the story of how something seemingly mundane could carry a hidden legacy. It came to represent the unpredictability of history, how mistakes, if preserved, become monuments. For many, the coin symbolized the tension between mass production and uniqueness. In a world where billions of coins are struck, the idea that one could stand so singular, so alone in its story, gave people a reason to believe that treasures could still be found in the ordinary. But that's not where the story ends. Following the record-breaking sale, investigations began into the internal operations of the US Mint during the late 1970s. A now declassified report from 1979 suggested that a small number of high-value metal alloy test coins had disappeared under unclear circumstances. While never confirmed, some suspected that a disgruntled Mint employee, aware of the experimental batch, had intentionally released the coin as an act of protest or defiance. Whether that's true remains speculative, but it only added to the legend. In 2020, a documentary team from the History Vault attempted to trace the chain of custody of the 1979 nickel, hoping to map its journey from mint to auction block. They uncovered interviews with former cashiers, vending machine operators, and coin roll hunters, each potentially having handled the legendary nickel at some point in their lives, unaware of its fate. One retired store clerk in Denver recalled refusing a nickel that looked fake due to its odd shine. That moment, seemingly inconsequential at the time, became part of the law. The documentary, titled The Nickel That Changed History, aired globally and sparked a renewed interest in everyday pocket change. Schoolchildren began checking their parents' coin jars. Coin collecting clubs saw record enrollment. The 1979 nickel became a symbol of hidden worth, of the unseen, of the value that lies beneath the surface. It reignited a love for tangible money in an increasingly digital age. Museums began creating exhibits not just on rare coins, but on the concept of rarity itself. The story of the 1979 5-cent coin inspired lectures in economics, classes in material science, and even creative writing workshops. Art collectors and historians began exploring parallels between the coin and other historic mistakes that gained value, like misprinted stamps, flawed paintings, or recalled comic books. The 1979 nickel joined the pantheon of accidental masterpieces, items whose value was born not from perfection, but from deviation. In 2022, the anonymous owner of the coin allowed it to be loaned to the Smithsonian Institution for a 2-year exhibit. The event, titled Anomaly, The Unexpected Icons of History, placed the coin under reinforced glass in a temperature-controlled chamber with rotating spotlights. Visitors from around the world queued for hours just to glimpse it. Some wept. Others simply stared in awe. All were reminded of the immense potential hidden in the most unlikely of places. What the 1979 5-cent coin taught the world was not simply that money can be valuable. It taught that value itself is complex, layered, and often emotional. It taught that worth is not always about face value, or even material, but about story, context, and meaning. A nickel became a time capsule, a conversation, a mirror to a moment in American minting history that would otherwise have been forgotten. Years later, rumors emerged that the coin had been sold again, this time in a quiet transaction between two ultra-wealthy collectors. No official record was released, but whispers suggested the new buyer paid even more, perhaps nearing $600 million. If true, the coin continues to rise not only in monetary value but in symbolic weight. It is no longer just a coin. It is a legend. No one knows for sure where the coin will end up next, perhaps in a permanent museum, perhaps auctioned again at an even higher price, or perhaps lost once more, waiting to be found again in a couch cushion or parking meter. But one thing is certain: the 1979 5-cent coin has transcended its original purpose. It is no longer currency. It is a testament to history, to chance, and to the incredible truth.